Hey everybody, it's Steve, Short Shift Garage again. So, interesting day today. Man, it's getting hot, and I'm just glad I'm not back in Santa Rosa, California, where I used to live, because I hear they've got fires going. California's burning again, and it's no surprise. And I just my heart goes out to those people that are having to deal with that. But I know that they're extremely smoky over towards the Sebastopol area. But anyway, so that's not what this video is about. But just know I do have a heart. so, um, so one of the things that we have to deal with when we're doing these types of videos is critics. And I know the golden rule is don't read your comments. Just don't do it. Get somebody else to read them for you, because it'll drive you crazy. And they're right. They're right. And unfortunately, they are right. I was recently on a forum, and I had a gentleman that argued, and the argument was really silly. It's simple math proves him wrong, but he was adamant. So let me switch over to the desktop, and I've got a better example of what's going on here. So hopefully this works. Yep, did work. Okay, so I modified this specifically for this video. This is some of this information I would probably not log in this density anyway. If I scrunch it down, you can't even read it. But excuse me. This is Nevada. The air is real dry, the dust is thick, and it's all in my throat. Anyway, let's talk about what's going on here. So we're in the midst of a wide open throttle pull on this. Let me see if I can get it to a. I want to be in power enrichment, and this is an easy number to find on the table. So at 5,315 RPM, my power enrichment is 0.0109. Let's verify that number, in fact, does line up with the table. And since we are in air charge, we're going to look at the air charge table. So we're looking right around here somewhere, and 675 is the air charge. So yeah, 109. Dead on the money with the table. Now you got to know, I didn't change these tables. These tables are factory stock. You can verify it against yours. So they're just for reference, but I want to show you that, in fact, the air charge and the RPMs line up, and the table is, in fact, giving me the correct fuel enrichment, and that's 0.0109. And that is in, it doesn't tell you what it is in up here, but I believe it is in milliseconds, and that is going to be added to your pulse width, if I remember correctly. I don't do injector pulse width modification unless I'm changing injectors. So let's go back over here. The gentleman's complaint was that I told another forum user who had stated that his shop told him his baseline wheel horsepower was 340. And I said, you know what, maybe they didn't calibrate the dyno, and maybe they didn't do this. And I didn't really say, hey, it was the shop screwed up. I just said maybe they didn't do this, because probably not making 340. And the reason I say that is because the wheels, and we're just going to use the standard that everybody uses, and it's between 13 and 15% loss of crankshaft horsepower. And that's a pretty good estimate of what your rear wheel horsepower will be. So, as we know, our 5.7s are now rated, and this is a 2023, so I'll use today's numbers. the year that this vehicle was made, not today, but the year this vehicle was made. I use its numbers to explain this. So it says that I can have, my engine should produce up to, and that wording is very clear. In the brochure it says up to 374 horsepower. So 374. We're just going to use that maximum. This is the most I could possibly make out of this engine. And they never, in the lab, they never got it to go more than 374. So if I multiply that by 0.86, of course that would be 14%. Remember how we do percentages. And let's see what happens. I get 321.64. So even if you hit the maximum amount of crank horsepower and you take that 13 to 14% loss out, and you're assuming that you're basically in between. I'll put it in the middle. You could go less, you could go more, but you're still not going to get 340 horse no matter what you do. So 321 is about the max. And this gentleman, I actually took a clip of just this area, actually just this area right here, and I posted it on this forum so that people could see it. And this gentleman came back and he just ripped me up one side and down the other, and he claimed that I had one of the things he always goes back and tells me that these cars don't have wideband O2 sensors, and even though I proved it, I know they don't. They don't. They're narrowband O2 sensors, but the PCM sets a base at 2.5 volts, and it extrapolates the data out to 5 volts. So anything coming in on that 1 volt sensor is then extrapolated out to over a 2.5 volt range, which essentially allows all of the systems to be adjusted basically on the fly instead of waiting for the O2 sensor to hit max, or on either side it goes to either 0 or 1, which it never goes to 1. But if it goes to 0 or 1, that would be a conventional method and say, hey, I'm at 1, I'm now reading very rich, or I'm at 0, I'm very, very lean. Okay, so right now it's saying it's very rich, which it is. But if you monitor it over that 2.5 volt range, the PCM can actually, through its inputs, not on the CAN bus, but through the inputs, it can actually adjust the fuel on the fly. So it could be in transition, and it could say, hey, let's find out what direction it's going in. If it continues to go in that direction, then do this. But if it doesn't, don't. So it's a much more accurate way. It's not wideband, and it can't even call it simulated wideband, but it's the way that the PCM handles it. So you can actually use that. If you later on, when you're really doing some more precision tuning, you got boost involved and things like that, you're going to want to put in a wideband O2 sensor. But anyway, so we proved the point about this, and he came back to me and he says, well, you're running a 0.0701 Stoic, so and you can't compare this because when you're in fuel enrichment, it's not using Stoic. And so I said to myself, okay, fine. So we already proved this thing's sitting here at 0.0109, right? So if we do the math on that, and if I did 0.0720, excuse me, I'm just going to do it through 0.0701, which this log file was taken while my Stoic was at 0.0701. It's right here on the left-hand side where my cursor is. Yeah, so it's 0.0701, and now we add this fuel enrichment of 0.0109. That gives us an actual fuel enrichment Stoic of 0.81, pretty close to here, the EQ commanded, which means it's rich. The EQ commanded is going to, these numbers are going to be off, and it's just the way that this stuff gets logged. It's not that they're not lining up in the same manner you might think they would. It's pretty close. So it's actually 0.80881, and so my EQ command is at 0.865. I could use either number and get the numbers I want, but let's do this, 0.081. We'll remember that in our tiny little brains. I know mine. So we'll do a 1 divided by 0.081, and voila, I'm at 12.34. That's my AFR, and of course that's what my AFR is. So yes, to the bozo that does not believe that Stoic changed here will change it globally, you're an idiot. Sorry. Because I just proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that it does change. So, especially with EQ, because that's different sensors and everything else. So, that's one of the, a pretty cool thing. I saw another gentleman. Now, this was not a pink. This is a good guy. He's out there, and he's a really good tuner. And he's talking about how Ford is so innovative that they now are able to know if your timing table is incorrect and actually give you more timing if you need it. And I says, yeah, and that's new to you? Because that's what MBT is. We look over at Spark and look at our MBT. So, look at our base, MBT. There's our MBT table. This is max it can go. If it sees you're down in, say you're at 45, and maybe you're at, let's just go up here on 5,000 RPM, and you're only getting, and you could potentially handle 24 degrees of timing, okay, potentially. And if all the stars line up, you're not getting knock, and everything else is lining up, it could go out there and say, hey, you know what? You could use some more spark. I'm just going to give it to you. Because you have things like this, your barometric table, that they're going to take it out no matter what. They just wipe it out. But if for some reason it looks at it and says, hey, you don't need to take that. I'm going to give you 2 degrees back, or maybe I'm going to give you a half a degree back. And the MBT is what does that. So Dodge has been doing it all along, or at least as long as I can remember. But that's what MBT is all about. MBT is saying, hey, this is the max. This is your max brake torque. And this is your timing during max brake torque. So let's, it can actually just automatically adjust your timing for you one way or the other. It can take some out too. But so the other thing is I wanted to talk about was high octane mode. And whether or not you're in high octane, of course, you look at over here, in order to disable high octane mode, long-term retard has to be at 0%. So what's that mean? Well, if you get any long-term retard, you're going back over here to base. You're coming out of high octane. If your short-term retard threshold if it's at 0, the threshold's at 0, that means that anything you get could take you out of high octane, depending on long-term. So all these guys got to line up, okay? It's not a one or the other thing. They all got to line up. The duration threshold, how many hits you get it, or how many milliseconds it is. It doesn't tell us here what that number is. But if any of this stuff lines up, then yeah, you're going to come out of base. Now, interestingly enough, there is a, let me just close this log real quick here so you can see it. I'll add a channel and we'll do HO. Does it do it? I just want to see flags. And let's see if it's still in the system. It's going to be a flag. Nope. Actually, it's going to be a a state. So H, high octane. Okay, so here's the state. It's either a no or it's a yes. You can log this, and I'll pretty much guarantee, unless you get some serious ping, or knock rather, you're going to stay in the high octane yes range. So it rarely comes out of high octane mode. It's pretty much in it all the time. Unless, like I say, you've got something really bad. One of the other things that came up was I got accused of chasing knock sensors. And there was another guy who was actually Steve Morris. Yeah, he did a pretty good example of it. He took a bunch of pistons and rods, and they were assembled, put them on one of those folding tables. And he says, look at this table right now. That's how your engine is when it's running normally. And then he took a hammer and he slammed it on the table, and half the rods and everything fell over. And he goes, that's what happens when you get knock. Knock is the most damaging thing that you can have in your engine, other than a failed bearing, of course. There's other things. But for a normally operating engine, if you got knock, you're hurting the engine. So not logging short-term and long-term knock, not logging your knock sensors so you can tell the difference between noise and knock. The system already knows that, by the way. You can adjust that. But not knowing when something is actual knock and when it's not, then you're missing half the game here. You got to. You can't. I mean, chasing it is like, I don't know what it means, so I'm just going to react to everything. And that's pretty stupid. So somebody tells me not to chase spark, then I realize that they don't even understand, not to chase the knock sensors. Then they have no idea what they even do. And I would not let that person tune my car, because eventually he's going to hurt my car. So knock sensors, yeah. I'm not monitoring them right now because I'm doing something different here. This was just basically a display for this video. But normally I am. Let me see if I've got a different layout here. Let me open up a layout. That's the big picture. There's the master. Yeah, so there I am with my knock sensors in here. And we'll open up a log file. Let's just do that one. Come on, load. And see, this is why I check out my knock sensors. Let's get back here to that spot. So this is me logging my knock sensors, and you can see I'm on the knock sensors, and I've got knock retard at 1.8 with a spark of 16.9. And if we go over here and we look at our volumetric efficiency, we're right near 100. That's fine. But if we look down here and we see what's going on, MBT says, hey, I'm going to give you 22.5 if you want it. I actually end up with 16.5. We switched over to base because, yeah, I got this. I got knock retard. And so, I pulled a bunch of timing out. I got barrel at 0.5. I've got knock retard here right now at 2. Fuel retard at 2. So it's pulling spark and fuel, and adding fuel rather. Even though it says retard, it's actually adding fuel. So, yeah, it's try to solve for that. So what does that tell me? Well, it tells me that this 0.0701 is a little too lean. So I'm going to change it from 14.2 to 14.1, and I will actually set this at 0.0710. Actually, 14.1 is 0.070. Let me do the math. 09. Yeah, I just did that in my head. But 0.0710 puts me right at 14.5 to 1. So I'm going to give myself just a little more buffer here. And I don't need to go all the way back to 13.89. I think that's just way too rich. That's E15. I don't have E15. I got E10. So I should be just fine if I drop this back, and I'll get rid of that. But I wouldn't know that if I wasn't, monitoring my NOx sensors and my spark and all this good stuff. So that's another one out there. Yeah, you need to know, okay? And a good tuner will know what's going on with NOx at all times. And they'll be watching it like a hawk. Okay, so, that's about it for this one. I think that we covered enough. Watch out there. If you know how to do something, you know how to do it well, and somebody comes along and contradicts it, a lot of times they're just doing it to try to get a response from you. Don't respond. Just look at it and say, oh, that's nice. That's how a Southern girl talks. When a Southern girl says, when they're talking to each other, one gal will say, hey, I got a new house in the Hamptons. And the Southern girl says, oh, that's nice. Well, oh, that's nice is the same thing as fuck you. So I don't usually swear, but today I'm in the mood. So, yeah, just tell them, oh, that's nice. And if they've ever heard that joke, they'll know what you're talking about. Okay, you guys, like and subscribe if you get a chance. Appreciate it. Y'all take care. Have a good one. Thanks a lot. Bye.